I want to start this video by reading a Facebook post that I wrote a little while ago, and then I want to elaborate on it a little more. All right. So this past week was a great example of how little confidence black people have in the moral agency and free thought of blacks. Bill Cosby, for example. Oh, it's all because of racism or conspiracy. You downplay the role that he had in this whole scandal, and you completely ignore the fact that Bill was 100% in control of being able to present this by choosing to live a more modest lifestyle and controlling himself. Bill had the power to protect himself, and he chose not to. Are you really going to treat a man of his stature like a powerless victim? In terms of Kanye must be using a ploy to get more sales. He must be doing something other than simply expressing his personal opinion, even though his entire career has made it clear that he's willing to be different and think for himself. Because after all, we know how blacks are supposed to think. And since he's actually thinking like an individual instead of using the group think that we have been brainwashed with, something must be wrong with him. There's no way Kanye West is simply just using his mind to think for himself. Candace Owens. Oh, she's a conservative black, so she's automatically brainwashed. The only possible reason for her to have the views that she has is because she's a sellout or she's brainwashed. She's black. So if she doesn't have a victim mentality, then something is automatically wrong with her. Now, this kind of mentality is exactly why people don't excel. Everyone is supposed to act and think the same. You claim black power, but every time a black person gets into trouble, you treat them like a helpless victim. You don't value the black person's ability to educate and think for themselves, so you reject anyone who does. Your type of black power is just as racist as the violence of racist white people, but your view is actually more harmful. All right, that's why I posted all of that. And I think it speaks for itself. I mean, reading it now, I realize I got a couple grammatical errors I need to go back and fix. But again, the ones who cry the loudest about black power are often their view of power. They say black power, but they cry victim. And it's like, let's take Bill Cosby for an example. If you didn't know about any of this scandal, as a black person, would you say that Bill Cosby had power? You would say, yeah, he's very influential. He's done all kind of things. He has money. He has celebrity. He's one of the people that's actually used his public platform to do good for black people, right? So Bill Cosby, and it's weird because when people talk about his downfall, they say, man, it sucks because this was one of the powerful black men. So you're acknowledging his power. But then when it comes down to the situation, oh, this happened to him because of racism. This happened to him because he was going to buy NBC. And don't get me wrong, those things are obviously pretty possible. But the bottom line is, you're going to take this person who you previously thought of as a super powerful, influential person, and now you're going to treat him like a helpless victim? Like was he powerless to protect himself from these kind of attacks, whether they're genuine attacks whether they're genuine accusations from victims or some kind of conspiracy against him? He had complete control over his own being. No one told him to put stuff in women's drinks. No one told him to be sleeping around. No one told him to take advantage of the celebrity that he has gained. No one made him do that. And it's not the white man's fault that he chose to live that lifestyle. Now, granted, during that time, and even now, we know how celebrities get down. Celebrities are wild. They're even wilder than us, right? We all know that. But no one forced him to be that way. He had the power to not be that way every step of the way. And he chose to sleep with numerous women in compromising situations, even though he knew that would open him up for someone to take advantage of that and to bribe him, extort him, or to make false claims about him. He knew this, but he chose to live that lifestyle. Especially if you have the mindset of racist the whole racist white people and, white celebrities they all are racist deep down. So why is he doing this with a lot of white people? Yeah, they're not all white. But even if you apply the common mentality to what he was doing, that even makes it more stupid. Because you're seeing that this man is willingly putting himself in a position to be taken advantage of by racist people. Right? He's setting himself up to be humbled or put in his place by racist people who don't want black people to get ahead. So he had all the power to stop that. So don't treat him. The fact that you look at him now like a helpless victim shows that you don't value his moral agency. You're basically saying like he had no choice. You're ignoring the fact that he had a choice. Let me put it that way. You're ignoring the fact that he had a choice, and his choices could have completely prevented all of this from happening. Right? And then, theoretically, someone could have came up with something else that was different and still try to, catch him up or whatever. But this is all of the actions that he did. Now, whether or not they were legal, whether or not the women were, went along with it and then changed their story, obviously that's possible. At this point in time, I don't have no opinion one way or the other on whether or not he's actually guilty. Because the way I look at it is, you chose to live that lifestyle. So you opened yourself up for these kind of things to happen. So okay, if I had to have an opinion, I would say some of it is probably legitimate and then some of it is probably not. Who knows? But either way, he could have protected himself to not be in a situation. He chose not to. All right. So think about Kanye. Kanye's been a little weird. He's been incredibly arrogant. Some people may even say narcissistic ever since he's become famous. He is who he is. He's always been that way. So either you like him or you don't, whatever it is, but he got swagger, right? That sounds real gay, but whatever it is, he's always been a me person. I'm me and I'm the best. He's always been like that. So the fact that he says something that's different than what most people think is somehow, why is that surprising? It shouldn't even be surprising at all because there are black people who support Trump. There are black people who are conservatives. And it's like the idea that, I disagree with this position so much that there's no way that he really thinks this way. Because he's black, because he's from the hood. There's no way he thinks this way. It must be something else. So you're insulting his ability to understand the political landscape and to think. You're undermining his ability to think for himself. You are basically saying because he doesn't agree with me or because he doesn't have a position that I have, he must not be intelligent, or there's no way he's actually saying what he really means. And so now you're insulting his integrity. You're insulting his knowledge of the political landscape. You're insulting his ability to think for himself. You're insulting his boldness, which is stupid if you know anything about Kanye West. You're insulting his boldness of being willing to go against the grain. So a lot of you who have this black power mentality, you will go so far as to demean all of these characters about a person simply because they disagree with you, because they don't line up with the way you think they should be. You're actually cutting down the value of this man, because all the things I named are things that make a person a dangerous person against a system of oppression, right? Because he can think for himself. He can't be brainwashed or manipulated, or he's less likely to be because he's able to think for himself. It's like, I really don't know what else to say about that. Like, you're going to question all of these things about him. So now, if you just take him as face value, he would be up here. Now, you're not saying he's greater than anyone, but just as a person, right? You would say he's up here because he's speaking out. He's speaking his own mind. He's being willing to be different. He's not ashamed of his beliefs. All of that stuff, right? Even if you disagree with everything he says, if you just take him at face value, he would be like here. even if you as like integrity wise, then he must be being deceitful. He must be brainwashed or traumatized. There's no way he really means what he says. Like basically, you're basically cutting him down because he's willing to be different. You're basically cutting him down because he's being an individual and not thinking as a mindless drone, for lack of a better word. Same thing with Candace Owens. Like, a lot of you don't know who Candace Owens is. Candace Owens, she has a YouTube channel called Red Pill Black. And basically, she's a black conservative woman who used to be very liberal until she started getting involved with some of the politics, liberal politics, and they turned on her. And she basically had an awakening. So now she's a conservative. She's very informed on political things, and she's I don't know if she's a Republican or not. She may be like a libertarian or independent, but she's definitely a conservative. And she speaks out against democratic policies and agendas and that sort of thing. So a lot of people dislike her. Black Lives Matter came to one of her speaks or one of her events on a college campus, and Black Lives Matter began to protest her. Now, Candace Owens is a black woman, and Black Lives Matter began to protest her. So with her having the mic and having the stage, she addressed them. And basically, the sum of what she said was, you keep crying the victim, and you are trying to benefit off of the pain that your ancestors went through, that you didn't go through yourself, but you keep crying the victim instead of seizing the opportunities that you have to advance. You want to be a victim, like you like being a victim. And one of the things she said I thought was very powerful. She said there's a civil war going on in the black community, a mental or intellectual civil war, because there are black people that are focused on their past, and there are other black people who are focused on the future. And the people that are focused on the past don't want anyone else. They don't want other black people to do anything else but focus on the past. So that's Candace Owens. Now, Kanye West he's tweeted, he's like, I like the way Candace thinks. It's okay to be yourself. And of course, Kanye West has been disowned. Candace has been disowned. They're coons. She must be doing this just for money. The white people or the Republicans must be paying her off. All of this stuff that, again, it's like the black community, and I'm going to be general. You can say whatever you want. I'm going to be general. If you can generalize about cops, if you can generalize about whites, if you can generalize about Republicans, if you can generalize about any of the things you don't like, then don't complain to me about generalizing about my own people, because I can do it. And comedians do it all the time, and you're okay with it, and you laugh because you know it's true. But then you put on the front when it comes to politics and act like it's not. Black people do not value individuals who think for themselves. They do not like individuals who are willing to be different. And the proof of that is anytime you have a black individual who thinks differently than the status quo, they are immediately disowned and ostracized. And they'll experience more hatred from their own people than they will ever face in a lifetime from a white racist person. It's like anytime a black person commits a heinous crime, anytime a black person gets in trouble, the same people who scream black power act like this person could not have done any better. You know, the whole black power mentality, the whole race first mentality has black people defending sexual predators, Bill Cosby. It has people defending people like Stephon Clark, who says things like, dark women bring dark problems. The only thing black I want is my Xbox. So he has no respect for black women. But you'll be defending him, and he was killed running from the cops after committing crimes. So you'll defend people like that. But then people like Ben Carson, people like Kanye West, people like Candace Owens, people like Colin Powell, like anybody who's actually legitimately who's worked their way up through the system, you'll tear them down. I'm not saying that Kanye's worked his way up, but, you know, I'm just saying anyone of stature who disagrees with your position, You will disown them. So it's like having a jewelry box. It's like having a jewelry box, and you have very precious diamonds, or you have stuff that's worth value. And in this case, the people of value will be the ones who have influence and position. So it'll be like Condoleezza Rice or Omarosa when she was in the White House or whatever. Like, you have people that should be more valuable to you, not as their worth as a human being, but because of their influence in their position. And it's like you'll take those diamonds or you'll take those jewels out the drawer and chuck them, throw them away, flush them down the drain. And then you have lesser ones that it's like you'll throw away. It's like throwing away your diamonds, and then like, yo, somebody stole my sterling silver earrings, and you get mad and you throw a fit because somebody stole the lesser respectable things that you had, but you willingly threw away the valuable things that could have actually raised your worth. You threw those away. And that's exactly what the black community does. You have any politician who's gone through the ranks, except for maybe Barack Obama, and some people don't really like him either. But it's like people. Let's talk about Barack Obama. This is what I'm saying. Let's talk about Barack Obama, and let's apply the whole mentality, the whole racism and systemic racism mentality. How did Barack Obama get to where he got? Is it because he was... So your victim mentality and your view of the world will not allow you to say that Barack Obama got to where he was because he was an intelligent, charismatic, good-looking black man. Now, Barack Obama's policies are extremely liberal. I can see why they use them. Obviously, his color, and if anything, his color probably helped him. His color helped him because people were like the white liberals and the black people. Black people want to see a black president, and white liberals want to feel good about being liberal and progressive. So they're going to want a black president. They're going to want a female president, that sort of thing. So you could say that he was a great politician or a clever politician, and he got to where he got that way. Or you could think, well, the system is based off of oppression, and the only way people who have power in the system is white people, racist white people. Therefore, the only way Barack Obama got to where he was is because racist white people use him as a puppet. Like, there's no other way. Like, if you have the kind of mentality of the system, you either have to reject that when it comes to Barack Obama, or you have to cut him down and say he didn't deserve it, he didn't have the accomplishments, or he didn't have the charisma, or whatever else that politicians use to get themselves elected. So, again, it's like, if you're a black person and you excel and you're not following the status quo, if you're not saying what black people will want you to say, which is, we're helpless, the only way we can change or improve is if white people do stuff, or if the government does stuff for us. Like, your view of black power literally presents you like a helpless victim. It literally does. That's not power. It's victimhood. You're promoting victimhood and helplessness. The idea that and this is something different, but like, just think about affirmative action, right? Affirmative action basically is like, well, education in black areas is not sufficient enough. Therefore, our requirements to allowing them into college should be lesser. So, does a black person have the ability to educate themselves? Can black people possibly rise to the same intellectual level of a white person? Considering all kind of discrepancies you think there may be in the system. And there are some. I think it has more to do with economic class than race. But there are some inconsistencies. There are some discrepancies in the system. Yeah, the education in North Philly is not going to be the same as out there in King of Prussia. It's just not. I think that's more of an economic thing than a race thing. But if you create things that lower the standard for black people, it's like you're saying they are incapable of getting to what the standard is. And that's like, what kind of message are you you sending to the younger generation? What is the message that you subconsciously sending to yourself? So people are so quick to talk about self-hate and you don't love yourself and you don't believe in yourself and all that stuff. But it's like, you believe that the only way you can get ahead is by lowering the standards. Or you believe that white people and the government is so oppressive that the only way you can rise above the challenges that you face is if they change. That's not power. That is victimhood. And if that's what you believe, then own it. But when black people put themselves in a position to be taken advantage of, or let's say if you say that there's injustice with the legal system, do black people have the power to keep themselves out of the legal system? You may say no, because you don't have control over if a police officer pulls you over, or that you may just say no, right? I'm going to assume that you're going to say no. You may say yes, they do. If you're a person who values the moral agency of black people, you'll say that generally they can. Most black people, regardless of how you feel about the system, most black people that are involved in the legal system are there because of their behavior. Now, you may say, because a lot of people say it, well, the system is different for us than it is for white people. It's harsher. They're less lenient, blah, 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 blah. The root cause of black people being in the system is because of decisions that they have made. So, do black people have a level of power to prevent themselves from being manipulated or oppressed by the system? And obviously, if you value the moral agency of black people, you would say yes. Now, if you don't value the moral agency of black people, then you can't get mad if a racist white person says black people are uncontrollable. Because that is basically what you're saying. When you say that, when you have that kind of mentality, like, the black person's in this situation that's very bad for him, detrimental to him, but the whole problem with the situation is someone else. The whole problem is that's like how you would treat like a mentally slow person, right? That's how you would treat like a mentally retarded person. So, like, let me give you an example. Like a mentally retarded person. Let's say now, I've actually noticed this with a couple of people, but I've noticed like there are like high functioning people that are slow, so to speak. And I don't even know if that's offensive or not, but there are women that are, they can go to work. They can have like a job, a simple job, and, they can clean themselves and stuff. They're a functioning human being, but they're mentally not as developed as they should be. So they're kind of like a kid in an adult's body. And with these women, men take advantage of them because they're not really that intelligent, or, they're slow. So men take advantage of them and get them pregnant or use them and stuff like that. And I've seen a couple women that are like that. And who knows, the same thing obviously happens to men. People take advantage of them. So if you had like a slow cousin or something, right? And they're outside and and you see people making fun of this person or teasing him or having him do things that they're taking advantage of him, you're not going to be so upset with him. You're going to be upset at the other people because of his because of what he's lacking, because of his weaknesses. You're not going to be upset with him. Whereas if you have a relative in that same situation who generally, like, let's say you have somebody that's like very self-sufficient and very confident, or they're independent and they're able to take care of themselves, and they have an entrepreneurial spirit, like someone who's like a go-getter and who's very intelligent. If they're doing that same thing, if they were doing the same thing as that slow person, because of their potential, because of their value, for lack of a better word, their value, or you know how awesome they are, you're going to be less angry at the so-called oppressor or the accuser or the mocker. You're going to be more angry at them because you value them and you're going to hold them to a higher standard. Now, what happens with black people when they get in trouble? People don't do that. So that's why I know that people don't value black people's ability to control themselves or their ability to think for themselves. They don't look at that black person and say, what are you doing? Stop this. You're acting a fool. You can do better, or you are better than this. Instead, they get mad at the oppressor, or they get mad at the mocker, or whatever you want to say. And they look at this person and say, man, why are you doing this to him? The same way you would treat people who's messing with a mentally retarded or a slow person. So people can say black power all they want, but in their actions, they don't hold black people to a standard that says or that proves that they value black people and that they have confidence in black people. Rather, the way that people respond is as if they, it's like, come on, this is a black person. Come on, cut him a break. He can't do any better. Or it's like, that's the mentality. You may not say those things, but that is exactly the mentality. It is low standards, low expectations. They're racist. They're racist. And it's just, the whole point, just to wrap this up, the whole point is this past week was a great example to me of just how little black people value other black people and have confidence in their competence. Because anytime a black person gets himself in trouble, they never hold that black person accountable. Like, come on, man, you should have known better. Right? So I just wish people would think about that. Like, you can't say black power and then promote victimhood. That's not black power. That's victimhood. And if you value your people at all and you want people to somehow progress and whatever that may mean to you, then you have to start instilling trust and you have to start instilling confidence in people. I mean, think about it. If you talk to your kids the way you talk to your friends about the education system and the legal system, why should they even try? Why should they even try? They might as well just do what the criminals do because they're going to be treated like a criminal. But you don't realize, like, that's the implications of what you say and the atmosphere or the culture that you make. You create a scenario to where everything looks hopeless. And then when the younger generation acts like everything's hopeless, we're like, well, what's wrong with them? Why are they turning to drugs? And why are they turning to the criminal lifestyle? Why aren't they getting an education? Why aren't they staying out of trouble? Well, you're constantly telling them that they can't do that. So you're the problem. You're the oppressor.